Welcome back to the Soft CEO Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Jhánneu, and today we're talking all about friendships. We're going to talk about how to know when a friendship has run its course and how to make friends as an adult. I think there are a few things to know when a friendship has run its course. One is just you are consistently drained, like you feel it in your body, you're exhausted, or maybe even find yourself questioning, or maybe you find yourself being insecure because they're talking down to you and make you feel like you're not good enough. I can definitely relate to that. I used to have a friend, and I don't know, I always I feel like she made me feel bad for myself. Now, of course, I think as a friend, you should communicate like, hey, I think this might be an issue, maybe you should work on X, Y, and Z, sure. But it came to a point where she was like, you need therapy. And I was like, that's fair, sure. I go get a therapist and I talk to her about the session. And she's like, I think you need a new therapist. You shouldn't be talking about X, Y, and Z. You should be talking about A, B, and C. And I was like, whoa. I don't know what that energy was coming from. This was years ago. And I was like, you can't be over here telling me I need to go to therapy, and I finally go to therapy, which anyone that goes to therapy, great, congratulations. And then you're like, no, that therapist isn't good enough. You shouldn't be talking about this. You need to focus on this in your life. And it's like, who are you to be saying that? So, and I don't know, she sort of made me start to feel bad about myself. I'm not perfect, right? And there's things, of course, I can fix about myself, but you can't knock someone down when they're already maybe not in the best place. I think a lot of times people hold on to relationships because they've known each other for so long. I get it, and it's hard, but it's also we only have one life, and you don't want to waste it continuing to invest in a friendship that is just no longer serving you. And I think another point is when you have accomplishments and they're not happy for you, that's also a red flag, because a lot of times people get jealous, if one person's thriving, the other isn't, people can get jealous. And I think this friendship, there's a lot of great things, but then towards the end, it got to the point where I felt like anytime I would say something good was going on in my life, because her life wasn't going as great, it just there wasn't positive energy around it. And she was sort of my main. I've always kept my circle small, and I think I've always been to myself because I didn't grow up with money, and I went to a fancy private school, and I've just always been to myself because I never wanted to let people in. And this is someone I really invested a lot of time into. So I didn't want to let it go. And funny enough, therapy is actually what brought me to ending the friendship. So I was like, I don't need this anymore. No. If I'm not going to settle for less when it comes to men. I'm not going to settle less when it comes to friends. And when I got out of that friendship, because mainly that was my main friend, and when I got out of that friendship, I honestly felt really lonely and lost. It was a relief, but then, building friendships when you're 30, at the time I was in my late 20s, but it's a lot because you have to really put in effort. It's like dating, and there was a couple of people that I sort of knew at the time in Austin, because I was living in Austin, not LA, and some girls I was trying to become friends with, and I was talking to them about some of my accomplishments, and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing, that's great, X, Y, and Z. And I was like, whoa. I'm not gonna say I never got this energy from the other friend, but it had been a very long time since I'd gotten energy like that when something good was happening in my life. And I think the reason why there was also resentment was because the longest time I was struggling in LA, and I was the struggling actor trying to figure it out, and she was thriving and had her nice, salary and was doing her thing. But the roles had sort of shifted, or the roles had reversed. And I think there was resentment there. And to be completely honest, friend, I think that was sort of looking up to her. And because she was doing all of these amazing things, she was smart, blah, blah, blah. And I think there was part of me that was trying to be worthy enough to stay her friend. And so when she would say things that were like, oh, I think you should change this and fix that, I'd be like, okay, well, maybe you're right. You know me. And, it was also a relationship where I felt like I was starting to feel alone. Now, this is more towards the end of it, like not the whole entire friendship, but I realized that I was being made to feel bad about myself. And even just the delivery just was a bit mean, And at a certain point, when people are mean, it's not about you. It's about them and what they're dealing with. And I think no matter what you're dealing with, it's never an excuse to be disrespectful or to be mean to someone. So it was a learning process, but I think letting go of that relationship allowed so many other amazing women with good energy to come into my life. And it's taught me a lot. And again, I've spent a lot of time by myself, and it can be scary to try to make friends as an adult. But you'll know in your body, if someone feels good or not, and if it doesn't feel good anymore, then it's time to let it go. Because if it's costing you your peace, nothing is worth that. And again, this is obviously not something you just can do overnight. No one's perfect at this, but yeah, it's sad because you're grieving something you cared about, but also you have to take care of yourself because they were taking care of themselves and focusing on them. So it's I can't not focus on me. So I finally had the strength to be okay, I don't need this anymore. I feel bad saying this, but I feel it wasn't hard to end it when it got to that point, because I was just okay, I deserve better. I just deserve better. So, and I think when you're sitting with this loneliness after, it's not easy, but it's so important to know how to be alone, because then you'll end up settling in relationships and friendships that you shouldn't be in and that are bringing you down versus being alone. So I've spent a lot of time alone, so it's at this point I'm an expert, okay? But I don't want to be alone. And so I had to really rebuild and start to find friends. Now, I only stayed in Austin a little bit longer after that. And funny enough, on my vision board for the following year, I can't remember what year this was, but this was a couple years ago. And I was I want to make 2 close friends. That was on my vision board. If your business lives in a million tabs, notes, and half-finished systems, this is for you. Built this Soft CEO dashboard for creative entrepreneurs who want structure without burnout. If your ideas, content, finances, and clients feel scattered, this brings everything into one calm, intentional workspace. Inside your Notion dashboard, you can see your business clearly, plan content with ease, track income without stress, organize clients and ideas in a way that actually feels supportive. Want your business to feel calmer and more put together? Click the link in the description box below. And there was 2 people that I specifically wanted to be friends with. One girl, she was living in Austin at the time, and we both moved back to LA at the same time. Still good friends today. And there was another girl who I didn't know how we were going to develop a deeper friendship, but there was just something about her that I just really liked, and her energy, and she's just a good person. We ended up living together briefly in LA because she was living in Texas. I think she was living in Texas before, and then she also moved to LA, and I was sort of doing the whole Europe LA thing for a bit, and we both were in a house together that was from a friend, or rented from a friend. And we got to spend, I think it was I think I was there for maybe 2.5 months. But anyway, great friend, came to visit me in Nice when I was there. But I think, it's you can manifest friendships as well. And I think it's also being intentional about those friendships. If you want to date, for example, get off the couch and go outside, okay? And if you want to make friends, you have to do the same thing. And you have to put in effort and energy. And you also have to, again, leave at the signs of, this is not a friendship that's in alignment with who I am and where I want to go. And I think these 2 friends in particular, the reason why I appreciate them and value them so much is because I feel there's honesty without judgment. There's, listening, but also still, boundaries and respect and care. And I think also when you have dealt with things in life, it's easy to relate with people too, but of course not people that are still in that victim mentality. All this to say is that when you release people that no longer serve you, that energetically creates space for the right people to come in, which is what that experience ultimately taught me. So when it comes to making friends, it's like, well, one, what type of person do you want to be? Like, who are you? What are your values? What's important to you? Maybe you should volunteer. Maybe, you love people that are really into art and start going to art museums, whatever the case may be, but just have an idea of what type of people would add value to your life and start going to those environments in which you think they could be. And again, it's kind of like dating, it's awkward in the beginning. You're getting to know each other. You're trying to figure out how much is too much to talk about. You don't want to seem needy. You want to invest in the relationship. And I'm also the type of person where like I'll reach out to you twice, and then after that, if I don't hear from you, then I'm not going to follow up, because friendship and any relationship is a two-way street. So there has to be an equal amount of effort. I think growing up, the way that I viewed friendships was like people liked me, but I think I was so to myself because I was like so just like embarrassed of my background. And I went to private school, and I like grew up on the south side, but then went to school on the north side. And when you're friends with people, it's especially when you're school age, like to be like, hey, like let's have a sleepover, let me come over to your house. And I purposefully never built deep enough friendships in school so that it would get to the point of, well, let's have a sleepover sort of energy. Now I've had a couple sleepovers with like people at their homes, but I think for me, I never wanted to get to the point where someone was asking about my home, and I was just honestly too embarrassed because I just didn't, it wasn't a situation where I could just have someone come over. So I think from a young age, I just learned to sort of keep to myself, and that like I just have to rely on myself. And I feel like it's hard to connect with people when you're trying to hide. And I think now it's different because like I can openly talk about my background and talk about the things that I'm dealing with and going through. But I think especially when you're a kid, you're embarrassed. Like you just want to fit in. You just want to have friends and be fun. But I found myself just like hiding, and that just like really makes you lonely. I'm an only child, and I just put so much of my energy into school. That's all I did was school, church on Sundays, and school. That's all I knew, because I just knew I had to work really hard to get out of where I was, and there was a certain life that I wanted. I think one of the benefits of being around kids that had more money is just like seeing their homes and seeing how they lived. And while I'm sure their home life wasn't necessarily perfect, it gave me something to sort of aspire to. I think a lot of times people don't think that they can achieve certain things or reach a certain level because they don't actually see it. But when you see it and you're in this home, you're like, oh wow, if I dedicate my time to school and I focus and work hard, like maybe I can have this too. And there's been a lot of things that have shaped me. And I studied abroad in Germany when I was 15, 16. And first time outside the country, I'm coming from Chicago, south side of Chicago, never been outside the country, barely even traveled. I spent a lot of time by myself. No one was speaking English to me, close to the border of France and Switzerland. And I spent a lot of time by myself. Like I even did a little bit of solo traveling when I was there. And this is like way back before, there were iPhones. Like I had to use the actual map. So I think I've sort of, I wouldn't say perfected, but I know how to be alone because I've been doing it for so long. And something I am proud of myself about is that despite having to always be so independent, I still want to depend on someone. I think today people glorify being independent. And I think, yes, you should be able to do things on your own, but we as humans are not meant to do things alone. Like we're meant to have community. We're meant to rely on people. Like that's what just makes life, what would be the purpose if like you somehow are alive and there's no human connection, there's no one else around you? Like that doesn't make any sense. You're supposed to have people to rely on, and I want to rely on people. I think there's a healthy level of that, but I am really proud of myself as to how far I've come when it comes to friendships and opening up and not being afraid to be like, this friendship no longer serves me. It definitely has built my confidence, because I think when I was going through that friendship breakup, I was also dealing with like a breakup from a guy, and it was just a lot of things going on, and my confidence wasn't in the best place. And then when I was going to therapy and working on myself, I sort of built that confidence back, and I was like, I don't need this. Like, I deserve better. I deserve to be treated well. I deserve to be treated with respect. So if you feel like you're in a friendship where you're not being treated with respect, or you feel like there's something in your body that makes you sort of like feel alone when you're with them, that's probably a sign that you need to leave. And I know it can be scary, because making friends is hard, it takes time and energy and effort, not to mention money, because you got to go out and meet them, right? You're not going to bring good people in if you have bad people around you, because those good people aren't going to want to be around those bad people. They want to be around like-minded people. So keep your circle small, be kind, friendly to everyone, but in terms of people that you rely on and that you truly call a friend, keep it small. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you in the next one.